In today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about Osiris, most commonly referred to as the King of Kings. Osiris was one of the chief deities of ancient Egypt and considered the empire's first ruler. The name Osiris comes from Latin, but its root originates from the Egyptian word Usir, meaning powerful or mighty. Osiris is credited with giving ancient Egypt the rules of civilization and transforming it into one of the mightiest nations of the age. Osiris was the eldest of the 5 children of Nut, the Egyptian goddess of the sky, and Geb, the Egyptian god of the earth. Legend says that when he was born, a voice proclaimed, "The master of all things comes today." Marriage between siblings was a common tradition among both ancient Egypt and the gods from whom they claimed to be descended. So Osiris married his sister, Iset, I'm going to call her. Google that name and you'll see why. She was the goddess of motherhood, magic, fertility, death, healing and rebirth, just a couple. Their son Horus would later succeed his father to the throne. A little bit of background, Osiris also had another sister, Nephthys. She represented death and was married to Set, who was the god of chaos and the desert. Legend tells us that Nephthys took on the form of Iset to seduce her brother. The offspring of their union was Anubis, a very known and popular Egyptian god. The canine-headed god of mummification was also associated with various other aspects of afterlife. Osiris is depicted with a long, narrow beard and either green or black skin. His skin colour symbolises divine power over life and rebirth, and the fertile ground of the Nile. He holds a crook in one hand and a flail in the other hand. On his head is a white Atef crown decorated with a pair of ostrich feathers. His legs are wrapped in the way a mummies were. Pharaohs, in their public appearances, imitated much of his appearance. Egyptians considered the beard a status symbol and a sign of intelligence. However, pharaohs did not grow beards, but instead donned a ceremonial one made of goat hair. You've probably seen them, it looks a little bit like this. Legend says that Osiris was so popular and beloved by the people that his younger brother, Set, became jealous. When Osiris was travelling the world to share his wisdom, Set devised a plan to kill him. He had a beautiful box made in the size and shape of Osiris, and when his brother returned, Set invited him to a banquet. At the banquet, he displayed the chest and said that the person who could fit inside would win it. Set then invited his brother to try the chest. Once Osiris was inside, Set and the other conspirators closed the lid and nailed it shut. The box was then covered with lead. Once Osiris had suffocated to death inside, Set had the box thrown into the Nile. The heartbroken wife, Iset, searched everywhere for him and eventually found the box on the coast of Syria. An erica tree had grown around the box and covered it completely. Set then tried to prevent Osiris' safe passage into the afterlife by cutting the body into 14 pieces and dispersing them across the world. Together, Iset and Set's wife Nephthys found all the pieces and sewn Osiris back together. They wrapped his body in linen, making him the first mummy. The mummification would allow the spirit of Osiris to emerge from death and to return to Earth if he wished. Osiris was then considered the god of resurrection and the god of the Underworld. He would pass judgment on the soul of every Egyptian. The heart of the deceased would be weighed on a set of scales against the feather of truth. The feather was less commonly known as the feather of Ma'at. So when it was weighed, if the heart was heavier, it meant that the person was unworthy and they would be consumed by a gruesome monster hiding in the shadows. This monster is called Amit. He was the personification of divine retribution. This was considered the worst possible fate. If the heart was lighter, the person was admitted to the fields of Alu, where the gods resided. Basically, just the afterlife. Back in the old ancient Egyptian days, it was quite common for cannibalism to take place. Osiris was able to tame the cannibalistic tendencies of the Egyptians, but he couldn't eradicate it fully. However, the practice of human sacrifice and ritual funeral murders did decrease through Osiris. There is evidence that prisoners were often offered as sacrifices to the gods. It seemed that the ancient Egyptians considered human sacrifices as a means to avenge the death of Osiris. In addition, everyone who took part in the ceremony was believed to receive benefit. This practice was also carried out by Abydos, which was considered a holy site because the head of Osiris was believed to have been buried there. Well, that was Osiris, the Egyptian god of the underworld. That's what we'll call him. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know down below. And keep an eye out for another one.